What an incredible clip that was. Okay, from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, please welcome VFX supervisor Erik Winquist. That is such a great clip. And by the way, if you want to see like that full version, it is now streaming on Disney Plus. It's actually hidden under extras, but I strongly recommend you watch it.
It's a good time.
It's great, right?
Yeah.
This film is actually set 300 years after the events of the last film, and now we have Apes speaking. Talk about the technology and like what you did to get. I mean, this film is so emotional, and
Yeah, well, the biggest thing with this film that we could tell on the page when we first read that draft is that everybody's speaking. Because we're not carrying on the characters from the previous trilogy, we had to make a dozen new sort of hero close-up level characters. They were all speaking. We were sort of leaving that sign language part of the franchise behind, and because of that, in the past films, we were using facial capture technology, but realistically, a lot of the facial animation that you saw in those previous movies had been animated by hand, matching the reference that we saw from that footage. And that wasn't going to cut it this time around because we had just a volume. There's more talking in this movie than there was in the previous trilogy combined, right? And so to do that, we leveraged a machine learning technology, basically, where we could essentially take the dots that you could see on the actors' faces, and because we were shooting with a pair of cameras on their head cameras, it meant we could basically turn that into a three-dimensional mesh. And that mesh fed into a deep learning network that could then learn the correlation between those dots, and animators could then train that to understand what shapes the ape's face had to make to mimic exactly the emotional state of the actors. And that was the biggest thing for us on these is, it was a key thing that we had to replicate every little tick, every nuance. You had to get the same hit watching our apes that you did in the cast that you can see, because as you can just see, like, these guys were giving us gold every day.
right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
But take me into like the time, like I want to know, like, how long would it take to like take that, performance with, all the tech and then turn it into a scene?
We were in post for 58 weeks on the show. And so that's part of the thing you've probably heard Wes say previously, that, he would turn things over to us and it would be months before he really saw if he made the right choices editorially. Did he have to he realized that once you actually saw that performance in an ape form, you just wanted to stay with it. And so, this shot actually had to become longer than they thought it might have been. And so I guess the process, any individual shot, might take 12, 15, whatever weeks to go from the raw turned over performance for us to get it all tracked and put in the thing, put the simulation on the hair and the muscles, and then get that all the way through lighting and compositing, and finally deliver it to Wes and his editor, Dan, to sort of just really kind of take the cut in and see if it was the movie he was hoping to make, And so there's that leap of faith that goes into the process. But the thing that's fantastic is Wes, he comes from our world. His background was in 3D animation before he started directing live action films. And so there's this sort of shorthand that we had with each other that allowed him to trust that process, I think, more than other filmmakers maybe we might encounter. And because of that, it made for such a satisfying creative process for all of us. The whole team felt like we had input into this. It wasn't just following orders. It was whoever's got the best idea wins. There were things that Wes very distinctly had that he was trying to get on screen, but there were other times when he was absolutely open and looking for suggestions maybe of how we might attack a particular problem.
Amazing. Another thing that happens, there's a lot of water in this film. So take me through how, animating water, or working with water and VFX, has that changed at Weta?
Yeah, that was, again, another one of those things on the page that was very apparent that we were going to have some serious struggles with. However, on our side, we had just spent 6 years or so making a film that had a lot to do with water. It was a way of water. And because of that, it allowed us to go into the process with the faith that we had the technology to do the simulation work that was required, and also the talent within the effects team to know how to change what we were doing to suit our film, because obviously this was a very different movie than the film that a lot of that work had been done for. So with that kind of in mind, it was really more about a conversation where, with the special effects department, what did we need to do live there on the day, and what was going to be best left to do in post. And so, two examples of that, we had the river sequence where Raka and May are both in the river together. That we needed that live action water because Freya was in there. We needed to have her really, you needed to see her struggling in close up, almost drowning in that sequence. And then we then had to have our digital orangutan in that as well. And then the scene at the third act, the flood, that was a location that we never really found a suitable place while through the scouting process. Just logistically, it was going to be such a financially or logistic issue to execute. And so for that reason, that we said that's going to be completely digital. Right. So the different approaches there, it saved us from having to try and do full day resets of the special effects dump tanks in that space. Where it really helped us was in the river. So it was a really fun collaborative process with all the rest of the HODs.
Amazing. What an incredible insight into Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. As I said, you can watch the rest of the whole movie that way on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Streaming under
Blu-ray.
extras.